Hello everyone, it's Phil here again. I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's my channel, for crying out loud. So anyway, I have decided to do something a little bit different this time and start up a top 10 series which you, the viewer, can take part in by commenting or uploading a video and adding it to the video response section with your list for this week's gaming topic. So without further ado, the first topic is, if you haven't already read the title, is top 10 games from my childhood. Now, I currently have one rule for this, and that is I will only class any game as a game I played during my childhood from when I was about 3 to 13. I was about to say 1 year old, that would be weird, but also very cool if I could say I was gaming since I was 1. But anyway, I cannot by any means choose any games I played later in life that came out during that timeline, which is about 1991 to 2004, or else you would see the mighty Persona franchise on here. But anyway, on to the list. So, at number 10 we have a game that was probably the only game in my life that has ever burned the image of its disc art directly into my brain. I am of course referring to the vibrant pink disc that is Guardian's Crusade. Released in 1998 for the PAL regions, and for the PlayStation 1 of course, developers Tamsoft, who are actually mainly known at the time for their hentai games, yes, that's right, hentai games, had attempted to make something more family friendly, and to be honest, they did a bloody good job of it. Now, this game has many charms, one of which is you actually use living toys in combat. I mean, this is the same time as Toy Story was around, so this was awesome for me, especially in my younger days. And basically, these living toys could either heal you or help you kill monsters, deal damage. Some even had uses out of battle, such as Mapster, who, if you hadn't already figured it out, here's your world map. So there is a lot to talk about this game, everything from its vibrant world map to the baby monster that you find and have to take back to its mother in God's Tower. The soundtrack was just fantastic, and of course the storyline was great. So the only downside I felt that this game had was it lacked clear direction to what you had to do at this point in time. Whilst you could talk to your fairy friend Nehane, or Nehane, depending on how you want to pronounce it, the main character's fairy friend, as I said, to get hints on where to go, but I found the first time through the game it wasn't really enough to give me a direction, so I found myself on the internet a lot of the time trying to find out where I had to go next. But if you can find it, it's about a tenner online. I highly recommend getting it. Spinning its way into number 9 is the wonderful and weird Jade Cocoon, Story of Tamamayu. I believe that is the worst pronunciation ever, or that might actually be right, but who cares? I don't know if it's right, don't know if it's wrong. If any of you know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, leave it in the comments. But anyway, it was released for the PlayStation 1 by creators Genkai and Crave Entertainment, who published this game out to the PAL regions in 1999. And the game became a fairly good success, and in doing so it managed to spawn 2 sequels. One for a mobile phone called Jade Cocoon Gaiden, which is a continuation of the story where the first game left off, and the PlayStation 2 direct sequel of Jade Cocoon 2, which is set 100 years after the first game. So anyway, why was this game brilliant? Why is it in my top 10? It's because it was absolutely mind-blowing. The art style was brilliant, which made it even better when it was combined with Kimitake Matsumi's compositions. Again, I'm sorry if these are appalling pronunciations of names. I don't mean any disrespect, it's just for some I can't, for some I can. But anyway, now a lot of people call this game a Pokemon ripoff because it does have a lot of things Pokemon-esque about it, but it's not a Pokemon ripoff. Since you went around capturing minions, you could do one of 3 things. Of course, that's very like Pokemon, you can capture something, but just because you can capture something doesn't make it a Pokemon ripoff. The first thing you could do with them is use them to battle, obviously. I mean, you'd need them to battle, or else you're just on your own and you will get battered by these things. The second thing you could do is you could use them to merge together with other minions you already have, which affects what they look like as well as their attack pools, which means basically you can take a fire monster and a water monster, not really good combo to fight each other, obviously the water would win, but anyway, you could merge those 2 together and have a monster that comes out looking like both of them, completely kicking ass, with fire and water moves, and they take less damage from either thing, so you can hit harder, and obviously you've got a bigger move pool. Now, the last thing you could do is spin them into silk and sell them at local shops. Now, this is obviously a great way to make money. However, When you add in the great storyline and the worlds you can explore, you can see that Genki and Crave Entertainment had succeeded in spinning one of the best JRPGs I had the good fortune to play during my childhood. So, at number 8, yep, you already guessed it, it's another PlayStation 1 game, and a PC game as well. This time, however, it's one of Capcom's greatest ever franchises, which I'd love to see come back, which is the Breath of Fire franchise. Now, you must be wondering what installment of the franchise am I talking about? Now, it is, of course, the 4th installment. Yes, Breath of Fire 4 is possibly one of the funnest RPG games I've ever played in my life. With its unique way of mixing 2D and 3D graphics, it was just mind-blowing at the time. That, and you could turn into a freaking dragon. I mean, how cool is that? You could be a dragon. But anyway, moving aside from that, the game, as aforementioned, was released by Capcom in the EU in 2001, with later releases on the Windows operating system in 2003, and a re-release, I guess you could say, on the PlayStation Network in 2011, so you can definitely get a hold of this game, and I recommend you do. I think the one feature that hooked me more than anything, and no, I'm not referring to the mini-game where you could fish, which was really famous in this franchise, so I wasn't trying to make a bad joke, but it's there, and I do have a specialty at this. But anyway, the thing I love about it is the combo system, whereby 2 spells cast in a specific order gain bonus damage as well as other effects. So basically you could use, you get one character use a fire spell and the other, and before those 2 have hit with that attack, their attack would combine, and you produce a much more powerful fire spell with a much more vivid animation. Now, the fun didn't stop there, really, because much like the game Grandia, which I will be mentioning later, you will combine your knowledge in, say, fire and wind, which in Grandia would allow you to use electric-type magic. You can actually do something similar, however, it doesn't do it does explosive rather than electric. So by using a fire move and following it up by a wind move in the same player turn, you can actually produce a massive explosion attack, which would hit quite a lot of people, which was ideal. Anyway, this obviously made the game a lot more fun as you tried to find the combos while scaling through this action-packed world filled with puzzles, beautiful landscapes, and of course, Yoshino Aoki's amazing compositions. Again, I'm sorry, I really can't pronounce these. I really shouldn't have tried, I guess. But anyway, on to the next one. So rolling in at number 7 is everyone's favourite Hedgehog. Of course I'm referring to Sonic. Sega rolled this out into stores in 1991, which was my birth year, so I'm actually the same age as Sonic, really. So anyway, this franchise quickly became one of my favourite platform game franchises, and still is today. It rivals only to the Mario Brothers, which is a really good franchise, owned by Nintendo. But anyway, I don't think I really need to explain why Sonic is so good, but for any of you that watching this who are living or have currently emerged from living under a rock the size of Angel Island, high five for the reference to Sonic there, I will explain my reasoning. So you play as Sonic running at high speeds, jamming to the amazing soundtrack through awesome locations, which usually have 3 stages per act. The 3rd stage in every act is usually a boss fight against your I guess you could say rival, but I guess the protagonist, I think it's the word, who is called Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman as he would later on become known by. So, you basically run through these stages at insane speeds, collecting rings, and if you were lucky enough, you would have figured out where all 7 Chaos Emeralds are, which would give you the bonus ending. And I mean, I love speedrunning now because of this game, and this game basically puts emphasis on speed. So it's all about how fast you can get through the levels. I would highly recommend playing this if you've never played a Sonic game before. I am referring, as you can see by the footage, to the Megadrive version. Or, yeah, I believe it's the Megadrive version, but anyway. That's it for number 7. So at number 6, this game is probably and possibly the biggest reason why my passion towards Japan and all of its, I can't think of the word right now, but everything about Japan, even more than I had before I played it, especially since I lived off JRPGs for pretty much the entire of my childhood, which you can already see from the first 3 titles. Now, this game is definitely one of my all-time favourites, and just had to be on the list. I mean, if I left it out, I would have felt guilty. I am, of course, talking about the Nintendo 64 game, which came from the Goemon series. That's how you pronounce it. It's actually Goemon and not Goemon as I used to pronounce it. Yes, it is of course Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, which was released in 1998 by the legendary Konami code, and to my knowledge, to this day, the Konami code isn't in that game. Why, Konami? Why, I ask you. But anyway, so in this game you control Goemon, or Goemon if you prefer to pronounce it that way, and his crew, which consists of Episomaru, Yae, and Sasuke. I really have to give the thumbs up to Naruto's anime there, because I used to pronounce it Seisuke, but it's actually obviously Sasuke, as if you've watched Naruto or you've heard the name before. But basically you get to travel across a fairly vast 3D world containing some of feudal Japan's most renowned places. Not only that, but the scenery and music made you feel as if you were really going on an adventure through some of the most beautiful places in Japan, such as Mount Fuji, which you get to scale and go to the summit within the first half an hour. Basically, the story though is the craziest thing you'll ever get to play through, at least I think, because you fight a giant mechanical robot which is a giant peach in space. I mean, what? I completely lost the plot at this point, but it is such a fantastic game, and if you love Japan, and you love the Japanese style, and you love to see these, feudal Japan places that you may never get to go to in your life, this is definitely a game for you, and it's a must-have for your Nintendo 64. Now, this game, at number 5, is possibly one of the greatest 3D games ever created for the Nintendo 64, besides that last game, Ganbare Goemon. Goemon. But anyway, this, again, was made by none other than Nintendo themselves, so grab your plumbing gear and hold on to your hats, because I am, of course, talking about the 1997 gaming classic that is Super Mario 64. Yep. Super Mario 64 plunged its way into many people's hearts within mere moments of playing the game. Not only was it a fan favourite, but it was also a revolution in 3D game design, especially noted for its dynamic camera system and the implementation of the analog controls, which was obviously a first for Nintendo. I think the best it did was allow you to attempt levels at any time you wished, which were all located in a giant castle which Princess Peach owns. Now, of course, Bowser's in it, and he succeeded in capturing Princess Peach and locked her inside the castle using the power of the stars, which you get at the end of each level. And basically you must collect the stars to get the power flowing back through the castle to unlock more levels and boss fights with Bowser himself. This game is basically a retro powerhouse, and it's definitely one you have to play before you die, and you have to have owned it in your lifetime on your N64. Because if you don't, you're not a Mario fan, and you're just, I don't know, you just need to play this game. Just play it. That's all I can say on this one. Okay, so riding in at number 4 is another of Nintendo's long-running franchises, one that has filled many people's empty heart containers to the brim. I am, of course, referring to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is probably the best Zelda game in existence at the time, which of course was 1998. So, yet again, the game saw you as the hero Link in another massive world with masses of adventuring at your fingertips. Once again, it unleashes you into the insanely fantastic world of Hyrule. This game, though, had one drawback, and you're about to hear the atrocity for yourself.
Hey, listen!
Yep. That's right, Link's psychic was a fucking fairy called Navi, who awakens Link from a nightmare near the start of the game, and from that moment has annoyed gamers to no end with that annoying fucking voice that you just heard, and then constant nagging of listen, listen, every 3 seconds. But anyway, whilst it was annoying, it was not a major issue. In fact, myself and many others consider Ocarina of Time as the best Zelda game that they need to sort of beat, and I think Skyward Sword came very, very close, but I think Ocarina of Time just has that backing behind it that they can't quite get again. But I absolutely love the Zelda franchise, so I'm happy as long as it doesn't, fail. That's all I can say on number 4. Time to go into the top 3. What's going to be inside? Wait and find out. Okay, so we're in the top 3. So at number 3, this news may come to a bit of a shock. may cause you a bit of a shock even to you, but it is yet again another Nintendo game. Except this time it's one of the most loved games that was responsible for dominating many people's childhoods, and to this day, still their adult lives, myself included. The franchise I'm referring to is of course Pokemon. And to be more specific on what game I'm referring to, I'm on about Pokemon Yellow. In the year 2000, Pokemon Yellow was released from its Pokeball and into the Game Boys of most people inside the EU. Now, this version was special. Unlike the other games, Red and Blue, this was made to follow the footsteps of the anime, which at the time was a huge hit along with the trading card game. One of the biggest changes, though, was the starter Pokemon that you received. Because you're following in the footsteps of Ash, you got his Pikachu. Or I should say, yeah, it's a female Pikachu that you get at the start. So instead of choosing Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, it's already given to you. And your rival, which everybody is guilty of one point or another calling him something stupid like Dix, received an Eevee, which, I'm going to be honest, I was perfectly jealous of, because I love Eevee. It's the one thing, it's the one Pokemon that I love more than anything. It's got so many evolutions, and 2 more have just recently been announced, but I shouldn't really be talking about that now. But anyway, as you progress through the game, you can actually obtain the original starter Pokemon like Ash does. Among the many changes this game brought, having Pikachu follow you around everywhere was my favourite feature, and I loved it when they recently brought it back in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. If you've never tried Pokemon, then I highly suggest you try it, and soon, because if you don't play it, then you're just teasing yourself. You can't say that you don't like Pokemon if you've never tried it, and trust me, a lot of people that I've asked to play it, just as a recommendation, have really enjoyed it, so hopefully you will too. Okay, I'm excited now. It's number 2. Now, I actually cannot choose between these games, and I can only blame one developer/publisher for that. It is, of course, the PlayStation 1's Classics, created by one of the biggest JRPG powerhouses around at the time, and prior to them merging with another Japanese RPG company, causing them to change their name. I am of course referring to Squaresoft, as they were known back in the day, for their Final Fantasy franchise. Now, like I said, I can't actually choose between the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games, which there were 3 of that I played at the time, which were of course Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy IX, which were released in 1997, 1999, and 2001. Now, the reason I cannot choose is because I love every single Final Fantasy. Yeah, I may moan at different things in each one, but the overall consistency of Squaresoft and Square Enix, or Enix's franchise, has, remained constantly awesome. But anyway, if there's one thing that I've never ever complained about in this franchise, is the music. The compositions are just mind-blowing. That's right, besides the epic stories that are told of Avalanche, the Timber Owls, and the antics of the Tantalus? I believe it's Tantalus group. And not to mention the graphic art styles, the after-game content, and of course the Moogles and the Chocobos. The music, as I said, has always been the one thing I've never complained about, and to this day it rings true. Now, I don't know the other composers' names, because obviously the company's grown since the original. I believe around about 11 they started bringing more composers in. That's just what I think, at least. And so I just want to thank everybody that made Final Fantasy so great, and of course Nobuo Uematsu for dominating my iPod at this point in time. Okay, we're at number 1. But don't fret, keep your spirits up, because this game is filled with spirits, amazing compositions, and much, much more. This is possibly my all-time favourite JRPG ever. To this date, it will still stand, to the day I die, most likely. In 1997, this game was released onto the Sega Saturn. With its popularity, it then got ported onto the PlayStation in Japan in 1997. The game only just made it overseas in 1999 to the land of America, and then in 2000, in the year 2000, I then found what fast became the greatest game I've ever played, and that game is Grandia. As mentioned, in March 2000, Game Art's amazing title, which was published by Ubisoft Entertainment and released into the EU for the PlayStation, was obviously out, and I picked it up. Now, everything about this game, for me, was perfect. It felt like an adventure, which was what the main character, Justin, like his father and forefathers before him, had always gone on and always wanted. all locations from the port town of Palm to the bustling Mogi desert resort town of Zilpadan. The compositions of Noriyuki Iwade are just so fitting for every scene the game produces, from those heroic moments to even those sad moments. The game battle system is possibly my favourite, along with the skill system which I mentioned in the Breath of Fire bit, in which you need to level up certain weapon skills to unlock moves. The weapon skills, I believe, are axe, mace, bow, and whip. I think they're all the unique ones, and maybe I think that's all the unique ones. And obviously the 4 elemental types of water, wind, fire, and earth. Now, you to get more magic, obviously you could just buy water, wind, fire, and earth. But if you, say, bought water and wind together, you could potentially eventually learn ice attacks, such as crackle and crackling. And, I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. The story is amazing. It's just mind-blowing. The compositions, as I mentioned, fit so well with the game. So, everything about this game has kept me coming back 39 times. And in fact, my 40th playthrough is actually going to be on YouTube soon. So please feel free to check it out. It's a patch to make Grandia harder called Grandia Redux. There will be a link in the description and probably on your screen now to take you to that page and my patching video so you can see how to patch it yourself and try it out for yourself. So there is no excuse not to play this game. It is on the PlayStation Network in every, region. And, I highly recommend it to all of you who love JRPGs. Okay, so that's my top 10 list for this week. Don't forget to place your lists in either the comments below or even a video response, which doesn't need approval, but know this, I will remove anything non-list related. Thanks for watching, and I hope you feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next week for my next top 10 episode, which I will not announce until then. Bye for now.